this whole concept is going to shift dramatically beginning of the year 2028, mathematically and philosophically. And it's going to be the best thing that's happened to our economy since, frankly, before the agricultural revolution. I can go back hundreds of years. I can't find anything that's going to have a singular impact the way women are about to have on the global economy. It's going to be that big.
Hey, Nicole, what do you get when a former corporate CEO and a do-gooding executive walk into a recording studio?
Well, Erin, nothing, because the two of us are usually on my couch or Zoom, because wine.
You get a podcast created for Gen X women who are bought into the corporate world, but fed up with the BS.
I know. It's how to thrive the 9 to 5 or 6 or 7.
It's career therapy. It's comedy. It's definitely full-on authenticity. Basically, we give you tangible strategies to rise in your career without compromising everything else.
Because work doesn't have to suck.
Hey guys, Erin here. I'm teeing up another interview, and to be honest, this one's a little different. It's fascinating. It's cerebral. It's something to start a conversation about. I'm talking with Don Barden. Don Barden is he's an amazing, globally recognized expert in leadership and decision making. This guy has more degrees than I have shoes, including a PhD in organizational leadership and behavioral economics. And his first book, The Perfect Plan, was about leadership and has been sort of used and leveraged by many companies around the world. But what fascinated me when I heard his story, we hadn't met yet, was that he, despite kind of continued success there, he became obsessed and actually even went back to study and research, went back to school. I mean, something I will never do again. This theory that the economics are staggering for women in leadership, and dove deep into studying normalized situations and data on when women lead versus men and the impact that has. And he makes a really strong declaration in his new book called Here Come the Girls that by 2028, things will flip. And it was a fascinating conversation for two reasons. One, because he's a white older male who's championing this study, this research, this declaration. And also because I want to believe his passion, but I also questioned him a little bit on it because anyone listening probably knows we've had data before, but we still are severely behind in women in the top leadership roles. And, I often talk about that some of the reasons are not for what we talk about, that women are opting down. And actually there's research behind this, right? That it's not just there's an issue certainly with patriarchal systems, but also do women really want those top jobs, those ownership, those CEO positions, et cetera. So he's a really wonderful gentleman who's not just has a million degrees and done a bunch of research, but gives back to the community, has done a ton of philanthropic work, and has a really promising book and data. And I also poke and prod into it. So we sort of get into some back and forth. And so this interview, I think, is for you if you really want something that hits at the cerebral you, that wants to really understand the data and research behind, women in leadership, and to start a conversation. I think this is a really good episode to start a conversation about, okay, so what actions can we take, us little humans, as a result of this new information and Don's declaration and his data and his upcoming book. So without further ado, enjoy my cerebral, sometimes a tiny bit heated, but all in good cause to get to the root of how do we, balance the scales with women in leadership. All right. Enjoy the episode.
I just listened to you make a statement that we have to unpack. You said,
My favorite people in the world, I think, quote unquote, something, are dentists.
Oh, wow. That's a weird podcast. Yeah, boy, I've done a lot of work in the medical industry and with dentists, and I love dentists. They're the most heartfelt people ever. It's a very odd profession,
Mm.
and nobody just wakes up and says, "Well, when I was a kid, I saw the Rudolph cartoon, and that elf wanted to be a dentist, so I want to be a dentist." They all have really, really unique paths that get them there. Because I don't think anybody wakes up and wants to do that. Either somebody influenced them or something. But the core common denominator I've found is that they're all caregivers at the highest level. They care. And yeah, I love working with dentists. They're a lot of fun. They're unique, but they're fun. Why? Are you a dentist? Married to a dentist?
Well, no, dental work
Here,
has been the bane of my existence in my
Well, your podcast. I heard you talk about that. Your root
yeah,
canal.
I'm still without a tooth. All that. In all seriousness, I mean, it is kind of funny, right, to hear you, and you are on a dental podcast. So, but you said something actually about them that I think epitomizes kind of what we talk about in terms of corporate America and authenticity. You mentioned like what they really want to do is care for people, and they didn't come into it to build a business or deal with insurance and the reality is that's kind of like what we're trying to combat, even in corporate America. Like any job, you don't hate the job; it's the junk that surrounds it. And so, as at first, I was laughing, and then and you made a sort of a profound statement about how they need to rethink about how they think.
Change the way you think about how you think about the way that you think about your thinking. In other words, don't change your mind. Just think about how you're thinking about it. Am I approaching this the right way? And sometimes I think in leadership and business, whatever it is, sometimes we get in a rut. And I love your 50% rule because it kind of opens people's minds up, to do that. But when you get in a rut and you become domesticated where you just keep doing it the same way because that's what you were told to do. But every once in a while, somebody thinks differently about their thinking. And then that's where you see these hyper jumps, out there.
So interesting. And we're going to talk about Here Come the Girls.
Yeah.
But let's go backwards because, we haven't met. I'm so fascinated by your tenacity, obviously, the giving that you've done, the amount of education. Like I got my MBA and I was like, freaking lock me in a closet and throw you ever talk about taking another class for a grade.
Yeah.
Maybe just take us a little bit backwards. I gave your intro before this, but I can't do it justice. Tell us a little bit about who you are.
It's a great question, and it's scary too. I tell people my life's been a combination of Jason Bourne and Forrest Gump, but unfortunately, it's more on the Forrest Gump side. So I've just kind of lived life. Now I've had the most amazing ride. I mean, it's just been awesome. I mean, there's highs and lows, there's ups and downs. Anybody who tells you that everything is perfect or wonderful or grandiose, they're heading toward a problem in the future when they wake up and realize that they weren't telling themselves the truth. So yeah, it's been ups and downs, but I think I was wired a certain way when I was born, just like you were and everybody else. I have a lot of energy, and I have this just inherent belief that tomorrow is going to be better. And I just look at it, and we were very poor. First person in my family to go to college, much less do anything. I was kind of told, get a job in the power company or the railroads and do whatever. And that was fine. My parents were greatest generation. I mean, that's what my dad did. I mean, I get it. So there's no issues around that. But I was like, I really want to go to school and learn something. And I think that's the way of the future. So I did that for a little while before the university told me I need to rethink my career decisions, that education probably wasn't right for me. And the reason is because I didn't know how to learn. I had no idea. I also didn't know that I was ADHD and dyslexic either. But nobody cared back then. It was just, he's just a little slow, or he stares out the window or whatever. Now you look at it and go, wow, that guy's gifted. Back then it was just, I'm just the CD student that's putting duct tape on it, trying to hang in there. But anyway, I got to go see the world, for a little bit. I got to go to then what was East and West Germany. And I remember one night and I was sitting at a bar with this guy, and I spoke German. And we were going back and forth in Deutsch, German. And he went above my head. And I was like, whoa, interesting, which means I don't understand. He switched to perfect English. Now, this is 40 something years ago. So this is closer to the occupation, Second World War than it is now. Okay. And so I'm sitting there talking to this guy in perfect English, and he starts asking me questions. And there were questions about Reagan's new tax plan and how Reagan was going to, as the president then, was going to affect everything. And I didn't know what he was talking about. And I'm sitting there staring at this guy. And it goes back to that, I believe in a better tomorrow. This guy lived in what was called Panzerpass, which is where they knew if the Russians were going to break through, that's where it was going to be. So this guy wakes up every day wondering if it's the last day. He does not believe in a better tomorrow, but it turned out he's a professor at the local, their version of a community college. And he started asking me questions about my country that I didn't understand. And I thought to myself, how can this guy who does not believe in a better tomorrow know more about my country and my life than I do? And it was such a humbling but eye-opening experience. I just looked at him and I said, hey, this has been great. I think I bought beer that night for everybody. Yeah. And I went back and I just said, I'm going to figure this out. This is too big and beautiful the world, and I am not going to be embarrassed again. And it wasn't about my ego. It was almost, and it certainly wasn't shame, but there's a little embarrassment when you think about it. We're all members of the Lucky Sperm Club. I mean, we were deposited in the greatest country in the world where we can do anything. And there's people out there who don't have that luck, and they've got to make the best of it from a different perspective. And for me to sit there and go, oh my God, how come somebody who doesn't believe in a better tomorrow know more about my life than I do? And I do believe in a better tomorrow. So I just came back and I threw myself into study. I'm like, I'm going to learn how to do this. And it just started the academic career. And then because of my employer at the time, you might can connect a few dots, I was expendable. I'd gone back to them and I said, hey, what was the profile that you liked about me? And they say, well, here's the deal, kid. You're pretty bright. Your education, your grades don't support that, but your cognitive ability to look at space and understand dimensions and puzzles is very, very interesting. You actually scored as high as you can score on that, to the point that we had you take the test twice, and you still scored perfect. So great, that's my jam. I got that. I'm not really good at reading and stuff, but I can do that. And I said, what does that mean? And they said, well, we don't want you to take this the wrong way, but you profile out as a serial killer with morals. And I'm like, so I'm a serial killer with morals? And they're like, yeah, I mean, you're going to make the right decisions. And I said, okay. But anyway, so when I went back and threw myself into school, I started thinking to myself, what does a serial killer with morals do with a career? And then I went, oh, Wall Street. So,
100%.
That's how I ended up going to Wall Street, working for some of the bigger firms. I've always lived in Atlanta, but most of the time I commuted between Atlanta, New York, Boston, and London. So it just opened up an opportunity. But going back to your point, I always knew that education was the only way for me to break the vines, of the past. And not that it was bad, nothing wrong with it. Great parents, great life, great everything. But I was like, I've got to get educated. So like you, I went back for my master's, got that done, swore I'd never do it again. But I was like, no, I can't stop. So I started my PhD 20 something years ago, wrote my first book called The Perfect Plan, which was a product of the dissertation, but I never finished the educational part of it. I came to a fork in the road, an inflection point where I had to say, look, this thing's taking off before I finish the doctoral part of it. So I've got to choose, do I stay in school for another year and get all my teeth pulled out, is what it felt like, every day, or I basically go with the opportunity to help and serve people with this project and do stuff and honestly get paid a lot to do it. So I went that direction, and it was the best decision I've ever made, professionally at least. So it took off. It's in 39 countries right now. It's used by Coca-Cola, Microsoft, the U.S. Army. I mean, a lot of people use Perfect Plan on a pretty regular basis, and it's still pretty strong. But a few years ago, I started thinking, this is really bothering me. I never finished something. I just left it open. So I went back, finished my doctorate, got it done, and then wrote Here Come the Girls. So that's where we are now. So I've had a great career. Wall Street was wonderful. I was a top performer. I left there and bought some businesses, sold some businesses, did stuff. So I kind of understand the business of business. I understand leadership really, really well. And because of my career, I've been exposed to some of the best and brightest people in the world. So I got a chance not only to do good work, but to be around people who shared their life with me. And I always ask questions, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? How would you handle this? And, it's amazing. Business anywhere in the world is the same. in life anywhere in the world is the same. Sometimes you get a little bit better than other people. Sometimes, like today in California, I know they're having a lot of problems with the fires. That's terrible. But, 4 months ago, Asheville, North Carolina, which is an hour and 10 minutes from me, vanished off the face of the earth, from a hurricane. Typhoons just hit India. Things are going on all over the world. But it's you as a microcosm that you got to sit there and say, okay, this is affecting me right now, but how can I turn that around and help, other people? And I think what happened, and the reason Here Come the Girls and all my work really had, decent impact, was that I was really a soup of all these people that I got to meet over all these years, and asking questions and realizing they're all the same. They all have the same hopes and dreams. 99% of the people you meet are going to believe in a better tomorrow, but they're decision is they might be the largest dairy farmer in Italy. They might be in the fish market business in Tokyo. They might make tortillas in Mexico. They might own a little deli. They might own a roadside stand, but they wake up every day with the same beliefs. And most of them who are successful follow the same routines and the same patterns. So it's a matter of looking at these patterns and saying, can we memorialize them? Or in the case of Here Come the Girls, when we saw the pattern, it's like, wow, this is really big. This is bigger than us. This is like seismic. We better not just talk about it. We better go back to school, literally and figuratively. We need to make this an academic doctoral report where it can't be denied. Or we prove that we're wrong, and that's fine too. No is a complete sentence. No is a real answer, especially in science. It means don't do that. So that's okay.
Let's talk about it, because what was fascinating to me the most when I heard your story. So as you mentioned, have a book, The Perfect Plan, and a formula for leadership that has been really successful.
Yep.
But in addition, you somehow, and I need to hear the story.
Yeah.
As a white male, Gen X probably, right? Gen X white male, decided to go back.
I love you, by the way. I'll marry you right now. I'm a baby boomer. Thank you. Thank you for calling me Gen X. You just made my day. Thanks. That's great. I'm the last baby boomer by 2 weeks.
Well, there you go.
You're right. So it's real.
You're right on the cusp.
Yeah.
You, as I understand it, you actually went back to school and decided to research to the depths that I don't think anybody's done before, the impact that women can have in the marketplace. So I'm excited to hear that story, and then I'm also skeptical. So we'll go there second. But tell us about what was the impetus to to the wind and go do this.
I'm curious about your skepticism, though, because that might be a little social construct and domestication there. So because I think everybody inherently, when we talk about Here Come the Girls, agrees. And they're really, really happy when they see the science, male and female. Yeah. I haven't had anybody do it. I have had a few people in extreme viewpoints, want to point out some things and say, well, we don't like the gentrification of it. I'm like, but it is gender. It is very, very specific about women. And so I can't help that. I'm sorry. I say, but you always need to read the tagline. So if you look at the cover of the book, it says, Here Come the Girls. Then below it, it says, a celebration of why women will take over global leadership in 2028. So from a science point of view, it's one of those interesting things where, you can look at it and go, oh my God, this is going to be great. I can either be on the bandwagon or not, and I'll get some little crumbs if I'm not. But if I am, and I'm prepared for this seismic shift that's going to happen in leadership, good Lord, everybody comes out so far ahead on this. It's amazing. But to answer your question straight up, so Perfect Plan was 25 years ago was an observational thing where I looked at it, and the companies I worked for on Wall Street would send me to places in a day's notice all over the world. And we would have teams working on projects for like a year or two. But then my job was to come in and kind of push it over the edge to get it closed and get the deal done and get out. So I was a closer for all practical purposes in every language, every country, everything you can imagine. And this was before social media. So there weren't TEDs conferences. There wasn't any connection on LinkedIn or anything like that. Certainly not podcasts. And so the world was different, back then. But I started noticing a pattern that because of who we were, and when we go into a country or a place or the thing, all the deals were different. This is Wall Street, so it's big, big money, right? And but the one thing that wasn't different was the quality of the people we were working with. Because we'd go into these countries and they would send their A-team. And they were lovely. They were wonderful. I've got friends all over the world now because of this. I still keep up with it. These are the most lovely, wonderful people with the same hopes and dreams as everybody else. It's just for whatever reason, their career got them to that level, and they took whatever inherent collective cognitive opportunities that they had, and they made something out of it. But I started noticing that they were all the same. And so I went back to my boss at the time and said, I think we need to study this. These people might have a secret sauce. In typical Wall Street, he's like, great, I want that. I'll pay for it. You go study it, figure it out, as long as we can create an ROI from it. In other words, we need to be able to take this research and do something ourselves with it if you can prove it. But he was very kind. He said, but you own the research. I don't want the research. I want you to have it. I just want first swing at it. So we were able to figure out 25 years ago what elite leaders do differently in their communication, how they present, how they frame themselves, how they do everything. And that's been great. Like I said, it's required reading at some of the greatest companies in the world in the military, and I'm really, really happy with it. But about 8 years ago, I started noticing another trend. And it's because of my career shifting, what was going on. I'm an economist. I'm a behavioral economist. So my job is to think about the future and to look and see what's happening and pick up on trends and what's real and sustainable and what's just wind, what's just a fad and what is an evolutionary, jump. And I started noticing women in a way of leadership that I hadn't seen before. And I noticed that when I was working with women, there was a different vibe about the culture that they were creating as opposed to traditional businesses, mostly run by men. And I thought, wow, that's really interesting. And I thought, how much of this is just feel good vibes, because women are frankly nicer than guys. And so maybe they're creating something that's just better. And then I started looking at it going, no, there's something else to it. So I started looking at the math. And just to nerd out on you for half a second, science is divided into two parts, quantitative and qualitative. Quantitative means it's the math, quantity. You can count it, and measure it. Qualitative means the quality of the output. Is it a phenomenon? What's happening for it? Usually, most of the time, in any science you're studying, you pick one of two paths. You say it's either going to be mathematical and mathematical only, no bells and whistles, where you just do the math, that's what it is. Or we can look at it and say, this is phenomenological, this is qualitative, this is a quality of something that's happened. We can't really put our fingers on it, but we can figure out that something good, is happening right now. Rarely do the two cross. I started looking at women in leadership, and it hit me immediately that this is going to be one of the few things, like maybe 0.5% of science that quantitative and qualitative slam together. And if they support each other, it's going to be something that we don't normally see. So we started looking at it and saying, okay, forget the vibe of women being in charge. What's the output, the quantitative? What's the math? And here's something that's fascinating, Erin. If you take two businesses that are equal, side by side in the same geographic location, they have to be close to each other. In other words, you can't compare a deli in Alaska to a deli in downtown Manhattan. That's not fair, right? So let's put two in Manhattan and let's study them, or two in Anchorage, but let's make it geospecific. And then let's have one run by a woman and one run by a guy. And let's see what happens. Well, here's the staggering numbers. Quantitative. Women outproduce men in equal business environments 3-1. Wow. It's not just in revenue and profits, it's in everything. Like, for example, in North America today, the average American worker is 39 years old. That same 39-year-old worker changes jobs every 3 years. So reverse that and say, what does that mean to companies? Well, companies are facing a 100% turnover of their labor force every 3 years. 33% per year, however you want to look at it. But that is the biggest thing that's affecting companies right now. It's talent acquisition because people are moving around. So that's the burden that companies are carrying today. Well, then you go back to these female business and you look at it and go, wow, these girls, they're outproducing guys 3-1. This is amazing. Oh, crap. Wait a minute. Their workforce stays on an average between 5 and 6 years. Wow. So now a woman's workforce is staying longer than a male's. But then here's the weird thing. Obviously, you come back to it if you want to be skeptical, like you said, and say, well, wait a minute. Maybe they should change jobs every 3 years because they lack productivity. People arc out and they get bored and their productivity goes down before they change. Good decision. Get it. Nope. The productivity of an employee in a female-owned business continues to climb for the entire 5 to 6 years. So in other businesses where we see the workforce start to decline after 3 years in their production, if they're managed and led by a woman, it actually goes up. And then we found that when those people do leave after 6 years, it's a hug fest. They don't go and say, oh, yeah, I'm leaving now. This sucks. They go back and say, oh my God, I'm leaving. But I just want to stop and thank you because I couldn't make this economic jump for me and my family had I not had the experiences I had here. And I want to tell you that I'm going to tell all my friends about how awesome this company is. And I want to personally thank you for allowing me the opportunity. I know it's hard. I want to stay, but this is what's best for my family. What leader doesn't want to hear that, right? So now all of a sudden we've got women out
Like
producing.
annuity. It's like the employee that keeps giving, right?
Oh, absolutely. And it solves the biggest problem out there. But then there's one more part. This is where it gets super crazy. We went to consumers and said, okay, like dentists, you prefer female dentists for all the wrong reasons, but whatever, they are nice. At least they're polite, nicer than the guys. So I can give it to you, whatever reason. But we went to consumers and said, look, we live in an economic world where it's very difficult to make a bad decision. In fact, most of the choices we have as consumers are all good decisions. So Coke or Pepsi, you might have some you like or some you don't, but you're fine, right? A Red Bull and Monster, okay, fine. Apple and Microsoft or PC, fine. They're fine. Whatever your tradition, whatever you like is fine. But you've got choice, and frankly, you're in a position of not making a bad decision. So we went to consumers and said, okay, you got good opportunity here and good choices. Why did you choose that business, which, by the way, is run by a woman? They give the same reason they chose to buy a company's product from a female-owned business as the employees did to stay working for them. And then it was the exact same reason that's a byproduct of the methodology that women use in leadership. So when you look at this, you say, okay, wow, okay.
Wait, and what was that? What was that?
Okay. Well, that's the qualifiable thing. Okay. So on the quantifiable, the math now lines up, right? So we're sitting there and then we just did the math. We started looking at it and we said, oh my goodness, this is going to flip in the year 2028. Right now, female-owned businesses equal about 42% of the world.
Hold on, I'm marking my calendar.
Okay. 2028, which, by the way, sounds like a science fiction future movie. It's less than 36 months away now. So in less than 36 months, women are going to take over, global leadership. And I mean, everything from the local deli to parliament. I mean, it's going to be big. The math supports it. And the math supports that she's going to outproduce men 3-1, that the longevity of her workforce increases productivity over twice as amount of time that they're with her. And then third, the consumers seem to be flocking toward it, whether they know it or not. So the math, we can stop there. We're like, that's it. Good. Who cares? Move on. But I didn't want to settle for that. My big thing is why. But why? Why? And in science, and this is to answer your question, science believes mostly in the mathematical side, but there's a thing called the null hypothesis, which means it's true or it's not. And not is okay. If I tell you that it's going to hurt if you hit your hand with a hammer, okay, great. Now we've proven that. Please don't do that. You don't have to do that. Science just proved don't do it. It doesn't work. Or science proves that something does work and you should do that. So and when you look at a null hypothesis, it doesn't matter what the answer is. It's just you need the answer. Well, I started looking at this and going, okay, well, let's just be brutally honest about this. If women are going to take over global leadership in 2028, quantifiably, mathematically, it's supported, and we know all these side effects, we seem to be really, really good, 3-1. That's amazing. But are they any good at it?
Hey guys, Erin here. Stop. Do not do it. Don't fast forward. I have something too important. I have a couple of very passive aggressive questions to ask you that you don't want to miss. Here they are. 1, do you find yourself often comparing yourself to others? Like, they work harder than me. They get noticed more than me. They have better luck than me. They're smarter than me. Or do you also just feel exhausted from having to always work as hard, if not harder, than everybody else to stand out and succeed? I know you have these challenges. We all do. And this is why I wrote the 50% rule. And I know you need to read another book like you need a hole in the head. But I'm telling you, this book and this rule, I'm obsessed with it. And it has changed my life. It has changed the lives of others around us. And it has also been the formula for success behind so many successful people. Savannah Bananas, Hamilton, Weird Al Yankovic. the 50% rule is the simplest shortcut to stop comparing, stop copying, stop chasing other people, and like literally compete in your league of your own. There isn't a day that doesn't go by where I stop myself and I'm like, oh, she did a talk that I wish I could do. She's got more. No, it doesn't matter, because we don't compete in the same league. I compete in a league of my own because I am constantly 50% ruling things. So if you're interested in this concept, which by the way is more fun as a team sport, but at least start with yourself. You cannot miss this book. It's not only powerful, it's really freaking fun to read. That is always my number one goal. It was my number one goal with my first book. It's my number one goal with the 50% rule. I want to make it enjoyable to read it. Why? So that you read it. So if you feel like you are stuck with these comparison cramps or just all the symptoms that I talk about in the book of sleep running syndrome, self-doubt gout, and pioneer paralysis, and well, you have to read the book to find out more, then just go buy the darn book. Easiest way, go to Amazon, search the 50% rule, and I cannot wait to hear how you 50% rule things.
What is it that makes women better than men at doing this? And the answer is really simple. Women are better at helping their teammates work through critical problem-solving issues on their own. So here's the best scenario I can give you for this. Let's say there's a problem. Say you run a manufacturing company and you buy parts, right? And they get shipped to you on big containers on these big ships that come into the ports of Savannah or Boston or Newport or anywhere up near you. And they get broken up. They come to your factories. You put things together and you sell it, right? That's business. What happens if you're a male business owner and somebody comes up to you and goes, sir, you're not going to believe this, but on the ports of Charleston, we've got a ship sitting out there with containers on it that are our containers with supplies that we need to run our factories, but there's a strike. The dock workers are on strike and they're not moving these containers. If we don't get these containers in 4 days, we're going to have to shut our factories down. It's a supply chain issue. What the male, and I'm being very broad figurative, so don't anybody say, well, I wouldn't do that. You probably would. But anyway, that's okay. So what a male business owner will do, or a male leader in that scenario, is say, okay, let me get in this. Give me the phone. I'm going to start making calls down to Charleston. I want to get these dock workers on. We're going to see, I'm going to fix this thing. Because guys are designed to fix things.
Yeah.
And guys too, sometimes if it doesn't need fixing, we'll break it just so we can fix it. Okay. So that's just a guy thing. There's nothing wrong with that. But that's what male leaders traditionally do, because that's what they're taught to do, is to fix things. What they do in that process is they neuter the team. So now the team knows, well, there's a problem. I just give it to the boss. They'll handle it. I don't care, and which means they've lost enrichment. They've lost a lot of things. It's just handed over to the boss. They're going to grab it anyway. Let him have it. We took that exact same scenario to thousands of female leaders and said, how would you handle this? It was insane, the consistency among it. In fact, there's a saturation rate where when you're doing a study, you want it to be around 40 or 50% into it, where you start seeing trends that overlap so much that it's undeniable. We did it on the second person, and then the third person, and the fourth woman. And I'm like, my God, these ladies are all telling me the exact same thing. They might have their own voice, but it's the same thing though. And here's the difference. So in that same scenario, what a woman does is when a team member comes up with a problem, she adds 3 steps before there's any fixing involved with it. The first thing she does is she acknowledges the problem and is sympathetic to the problem, not the person. And what she does is she isolates the problem off to the side and she says, okay, here's the problem. I get it. Now we know what we're dealing with. And she's sympathetic to that. She acknowledges it and she shows sympathy to the problem, not the person. Then she looks back, step 2, at the person who brought her the problem, and she shows that person empathy. She's like, look, I know this is your responsibility, but this isn't your fault. Are you okay? Please tell me you're not losing sleep on this, because at the end of the day, we can work on this. Yeah, but she shows empathy to the person, because that person's responsibility is now a burden because it's not working. And they're thinking, oh my God, am I going to get fired from this or whatever? And she's saying, look, breathe. This isn't your fault, but I get it. I'm empathetic to you. So let's just breathe and let's talk about it. So she shows sympathy to the problem. Then she shows empathy to the person. Then it gets magical. Then she does something that guys don't do. She leans into that person and in her own words says, hey, how would you solve this? What would you do if you had a magic wand, or if you were in charge? How would you tackle this? 98+% of the time, the person who brings the problem to leadership knows how to fix the problem. But in a patriarchal male system, and again, I'm being very broad here, so don't anybody go, well, I wouldn't do that. Okay, great. But most of the time, when a guy says it, he says, oh, let me fix it. And he just jumps in and neuters them and takes over. What a woman's doing by showing sympathy to the problem, isolating the problem, empathy to the person, and then leaning in and saying, what would you do? She is saying to that person, I see you, I hear you, and I understand you. And since they come up with a solution quickly, then she says, okay, go do it. And so by saying, I see you, I hear you, I understand you, because I was sympathetic to the problem, I'm empathetic to you, and I leaned in to hear what you had to say about it, what I'm telling you is that I value you. Because a person who feels seen, heard, and understood feels valued. And a valued person, and this is the next step, she looks at them after she hears what they say and says, go do it. You don't need me. Go fix this. Go do it. Don't worry about it. You got this. What they're doing is saying, I'm empowering you. So think about this. If you have a workforce that feels seen, heard, and understood, which means they feel valued and they're empowered, get out of the way. They're going to go out there and build stuff and do things. But here's what really happens. Next time there's a problem, whether it's a strike with the dock workers or just stuff, they don't come to her. They just fix it because they know I'm seen, heard, and understood. I'm valued. I'm the person. I'm trusted and I'm empowered. So I'm going to do the best I can be. And they have this endorphin high. Doesn't mean that they're not doing hard things, but they're going home at night with this buzz that I have such value in my career. I'm in harmony, with everything. That's why instead of changing jobs every 3 years, they're 5 and 6 years. And it's only for personal advancements with gratitude. But that's why she is out producing him 3-1. He is getting lost in the weeds. He is stepping out of leadership to fix a problem he shouldn't have to fix. She is motivating, inspiring a valued workforce with empowerment so they can go do their job so she can lead. And leaders do 2 things. The first thing leaders do is they make other leaders. They create, they're building teams of leaders and they're making other people better. You said something in one of your podcasts that I love. You said you don't want to be the smartest person in the room. That's right. You want to be in a room where everybody's getting smarter together. And that's what she's done. But because she's got an empowered, valued workforce that's out there solving problems on their own and not dragging her into it, then she's allowed to go out there and create more leaders, but she's really allowed to go out there and be innovative and to think about new opportunities, new markets, new clients, new products, new anything. So she can lead through empowerment, but then she gets to use her unique abilities, her gifts, and go out there and be awesome at what she does, which means that business is growing 3x compared to the guy next door who decides only he can fix it.
Yeah.
So it's about being seen, heard, and understood. It's about a workforce that feels valued, and it's about an empowerment that allows them to do their job. And because of that, she's free to build other leaders, and she's free to go out there and be innovative and inspiring and motivating and think about new markets and whatever it is that she's doing. And she's running circles around the guys. So think about that from a qualitative thing. That's the quality of the work that women do in leadership, combined with the quantitative, the math that says in 2028, this is going to take over everything. And you can't unsee it when you get out there and you look at it. You can't unsee it. And then you start saying to yourself, wow, what does that mean? Well, here's what's cool about economics. Anything to do with math, you can't add percentages together. There's some rules of math, okay, you have to do. So when your business, as a female-owned business, and your business starts to grow 3x, the business around the corner is growing 3x, the businesses all around you that are now majority run by women are all growing 3x, guess what happens to the economy? It doesn't add together, it multiplies. So it becomes 3x cubed. So now we're talking a minimum of 9x impact, but it keeps going and going and going. So we're about to move into a world that's going to dramatically change how we look at everything. Going back to what you said earlier, change the way you think about how you think about your thinking. We're going to have to relook at this thing because traditional patriarchal leadership and management styles are out the door. Women are coming up with this new thing it's not really new, but they're coming up with an empowerment of creating an enrichment to a workforce that's desperately crying out for it. At the same time, consumers are saying, I don't know what it is about that company, but I like it. And I want to be with them. I love the vibe of the people. I love the product. I love everything about it. So I'm just going to do it. So now you start seeing more and more consumers, come in. And that's what business is all about. It's just an idea till somebody writes you a check. But it's not a business till they write you the second check. And now we get second, third, fourth, fifth, because everybody's running toward this business because they want to be a part of this phenomenon. And it's going to boil down to one common denominator, and it's females in leadership. And it's just an amazing thing. But there are a couple of aha moments in the study. My biggest aha moment was, I had two really. Number one, this isn't a girl thing. This is just something girls do, which we can teach other leaders to do it. We can teach guys to do it. But guys are going to have to de-domesticate. They're going to have to sit there and go, okay, I know I've been trained my entire career to fix things. I know inherently my genetic wiring is to fix things. But what would happen in the quality of my life if I stopped trying to fix everything, I let an empowered workforce fix it, and I go out there and I change it to a philosophical approach where I start using my fix-it mindset to look at products and innovation and opportunity and do stuff. So I think this is a great opportunity for the male mindset to really, really take off as well. They're just not going to be in charge as much as they are today. So the patriarchal system is shifting to the better side, but it's not going to block out men. Men are actually going to become allies in this with a few minor exceptions. Because most men want to grow their business 9x, or 3x cubed. They're not going to argue about it. Most guys don't have egos around this. You're going to run into a few jerks out there, just like you're going to run into a few bad women out there. But here's some interesting statistics. 6 of the big 8 Wall Street firms right now are run by women. The 2 that are not have women in the queue to take over. Mexico, if you look at what's happening in Mexico, Mexico is the most Catholic country in the world. Okay. In fact, they make Rome and Italy look like amateur hour. They're real Catholics. They're good. That's what they do. Mexico just elected their first female president in history, and she's Jewish. What does that tell you? It tells you, well, there's a lot of issues around it, but what that tells you is that it is happening all around you and you can't unsee it. Like I said, dental and medical schools are dominated by women right now. There's only 2 sectors, I think, that are lagging. One of them is going to go the way of the dodo board, where the other one is going to catch up sooner or later because economics will tell it what to do. But this whole concept is going to shift dramatically beginning in the year 2028, mathematically and philosophically. And it's going to be the best thing that's happened to our economy since, frankly, before the agricultural revolution. I can go back hundreds of years. I can't find anything that's going to have a singular impact the way women are about to have on the global economy. It's going to be that big.
So I think a lot of our listeners, who many of them are women, like they have to hear this, right? Because there are other forces, if you sit sort of on this side of the table, that are extremely negative around regression, especially in the U.S. with their leadership, et cetera. But I want to poke and prod a couple places, and I'll use my dad's, one of his favorite lines is, I'm not a pessimist. I'm just an optimist with experience.
That's a great line.
So let me poke and prod a couple places. I'm going to start with this one. We've heard data. There has been data in the past. And I think from what I understand, the way you studied it, the normalization of the data, looking specifically at, like you said, same businesses, same profiles, and is your data is highly credible. And I love the explanation of the quantitative with the qualitative. But we've seen a bazillion data points before.
Yeah, I know.
And I think, International Women's Day is coming up in a couple of months, and sort of the theme there is like, we need to go faster, like we're not seeing the progress. So my first poke and prod, and the second one is, why do you think 2028, why do you think this is a catalyst when we've had all that data before, but we also sit on so many sort of cultural norms? We've got all kinds of factor, private equity firms that are all manned by men, and venture capital, and this sort of the bottom pool, it's so male dominated. So like, what do you think is going to be the difference beyond just like well, it's math. Like, why wouldn't you want that? Because I think a lot of us have felt like it's been a duh for a long time. So what do you think? What different?
That's a big question. The math supports it. There's no doubt the math supports it. The qualitative side of it supports it. So we know that. But what you're saying is it dogma or is it data? Is it just a cool vibe or is it real? And Robin Sharma, which is
No, I'm not even saying that. I believe in it. What I'm saying is, will the actions of those that need to get us to that place
fear for emotion, and
Yes.
and what will be different?
So Sharma writes, Robin Sharma is a great writer if you ever read his work, but he says, whenever you're going through an inflection point like this, where you're seeing a turbulent time, a birthing of something new, he said it's scary in the beginning, it's messy in the middle, but it's glorious in the end. And right now, what we're seeing with all these data points and all these people and the skepticism and stuff, and I love what your dad said, he's right. And I would add to that, one of my favorites along what your dad said is that there's three types of liars. There's liars, there's damn liars, and then there's statisticians. Because you can look at numbers any way you want to, right? So all this data that's flowing around out there is coming to a point where we're just at the messy point. We're done with the scary part. That's happened over the past 30 or 40 years. And most people were going through it at different times. There were serious trailblazers, that came out. Even you go back 40 something years, that old movie, Dolly Parton movie, 9 to 5, whereas the first movie to make light of it and joke about sexual harassment in the workplace. And then you see great writers like Matthew Weiner when he did Mad Men, a dozen years ago, and he talked about, hey, in the 1960s, here's the evolution, which is, by the way, that's a documentary. It's not it's a documentary that uses fictional characters to help tell the story, and it moves through time and space. So we look around at the messiness of what's been happening, and we just got to be confident that the glorious part of it is coming. But here's going to be the big shakedown. This is what's the single most important thing. And I'm really interested in how far we went, and now we're coming back far to the other side, and we're overreacting on both ends of it. When we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, right, which is a big part of life right now, right? And we see now that some of these companies are going, that didn't really work. We're not going to put so much money into it. We felt pressured, Walmart, McDonald's, all of them are coming back saying, we're not going to do DEI anymore. Duh. And let me tell you why. Diversity is a very, very interesting topic to an economist because the economy doesn't understand the question. So if you go to the economy, whatever the economy is, and you say, hey, I want to talk about diversity, they look at you and go, why don't we talk about air? Well, I don't understand why you're talking. And here's why. The economy is already diverse. The economy does not care. The economy is going to go male, female, race, whatever. It does not care because the economy is the entire globe. So like you pointed out to me, it's pretty obvious, although I am a baby boomer. I'm a middle-aged, blue-eyed white male, okay? Did you know I'm the smallest minority in the world? I am the smallest single minority. Yet people go out there and they say, oh, the rich white guys are yeah, okay, there's some colonialization, there's some background story. I get it, okay, the European influx. But have you traveled? Have you walked outside of your window or your office and looked around you beyond 25 miles of where you live? Because we tend to live in a homogeneous little bubble, right? But if you travel and you say, look, there's 8 billion people in the world, by the way, 6.5 billion of those 8 billion live in Asia, India, the India subcontinent, or Africa. They don't look like me. And then you start looking at other dialects around of the lighter skin, the less melanin in the skin, and you start realizing that doesn't all work. That doesn't jive. Mexican people look a little bit different than Anglo-Americans, which look a little bit different than Canadians. So you start looking at all this stuff and you go, oh, so diversity is my perspective, not the economy's perspective. The economy's already there. The economy is going to go to the least path of resistance, and it's got the entire world to choose from. So then you ask yourself, what does the economy really care about? It's not diversity because it doesn't understand diversity because it's already diverse. It's not equity because it just doesn't understand what that word means. Okay, too. It's one of those like, get more defined on that. But then you get to something very real and you get to inclusion. Oh, now let's talk about economics. The economy only cares about inclusion. It wants every potential opportunity within the market to be viable. and to have access to it. That's why the economy doesn't like restrictions. It likes free flow of information. In fact, the basis of our economy, currency, like US dollars is a currency. The root word for that is from current, which in Latin means energy or movement, like the current of a river or something like that. That's where the word currency comes from. It's an energy that's going to move, and it's going to move wherever it wants to because it doesn't understand diversity. It's already diverse. It doesn't understand equity because it's already there. It's a zero-sum game. It's just passing it around. What it cares about is inclusion. So that's the beauty of this right now. This isn't about DE, it's about I. And that's viable because that affects everything we do.
Hey, Erin here. So I know we talk often about this concept of authenticity as a secret weapon to success. I swear to you, my authenticity was literally the number one thing that helped me become both the CEO of a 9-figure company at the age of 42, but also that helped me lead an insanely successful financial and cultural turnaround of that same company. But I get that authenticity as a secret weapon kind of sounds fluffy, like fluffy unicorn doo-doo that leaves you wondering, what do I actually wake up tomorrow and do differently without looking stupid or getting fired? This is exactly why I put together the Authenticity Playbook for you. It gives you 10 plays or really thought starters that are simple, actionable things that will help you up your career and leadership game. To get your free Authenticity Playbook, go to beauthenticinc.com/playbook. Again, that's beauthenticinc.com, just the letter B, authentic.inc.com/playbook. Or to make it simple, just scroll down to the show notes and we've got you covered with a link there too.
So what will be the difference maker? And I get it, like it's an evolution. We're in the messy middle. We're hopefully, coming out of that. But what do you think will be the thing, the one thing that leaders should consider that are listening, that are leaders, or do you think others will be doing that will actually get us to that third phase?
Women are going to show the world how to empower others and motivate and inspire them, because that's what women do. They're going to go out there and create. And I made kind of a halfway joke the other day, and I kind of believe it, that God's a woman. I believe that, okay, or whatever it is. I don't know if you read in Greek and Hebrew, is a woman. And I said, but here's why. To think about this. The only, I did a lot of biblical scholar work. So if you think about this, the only description we have of God, of Adonai, okay, of the creator, is that single word, creator. That's it. That's the only real description we have of God, is it's the great creator. And then we get these, early scripts, saying, well, we're created to be in the image of God, right? Okay, well, the only thing we've got about God is God's the creator, and we're supposed to be like God. We're supposed to be creators too. Well, that's awesome. Which one of us, gender-wise, is the creator? It's not me.
Do you
women are creators.
Perspective, like creators? Because a lot of my listeners are they're in corporate America. They might be in the larger institutions.
Yeah.
Tactical question: do you see this surge? Then, when I hear creation, I hear a little bit more of starting from sort of those Main Street businesses, those small. Do you see it from a practical perspective? Because I think there's going to be a lot of people that are listening and are thinking the same thing I am, and which is like, have you been in corporate America in a while? I know you were like,
oh yeah. It's
still dominated. Do you think then it will sort of, that question? Then I want to challenge you another. But what do you think about?
It is changing because the economy is demanding it to change. The consumers are demanding it to change. And businesses don't exist. Businesses are mythological creatures, right? They're a collaboration of people. And they're trying to sell more things to more people faster than the next person, right? That's what businesses do. And businesses are going to go through energy to where the greatest opportunity is. And now all of a sudden we see the surge of women coming into leadership. It's about to tip over to be the majority. And we know that they approach things differently, which is causing a 3x jump, which is really 3x cube jump in the economy. Every skeptic out there, with a couple of minor exceptions, is going to jump on that bandwagon. They just don't care. Guys don't care if women are in the lead. They care about protecting their own self. So when you see some of these old patriarchal guys sit there and push back on it for a little bit, they're just scared. And remember when I said it's scary in the middle, scary in the beginning, messy in the middle, but glorious in the end? There's some laggards out there that are still scared. Most men have already gone through that scared part, and they're looking around at the talent of women that are coming in and saying, yeah, I'll put her in charge, make her, the person out there. A really good client of mine, 35-year-old company here in Atlanta, not in an easy business. They're not in like a soft, fuzzy business. Just promoted a woman to be the CEO. And I was so honored. They called me, and the owner of the company called me and said, hey, will you call her and promote her? And I said, I don't have any authority to do that. You're a consultant and your friend here. And he's like, no. You open my eyes, and that's what I want. She knows it. I want it. I want you to deliver that message. So I got to call her up and tell her, and she was really excited. But at the end of the day, everybody sees it, and they're not as bad as what most people think they are. And I tell people all the time, you ask men straight up what they think about women and women being in charge, and most of them are going to laugh and try to blow it off as a little microaggression or micro joke. They're going to say, well, women have been in charge since the beginning of time anyway. They're not going to deny it.
Yeah. Listen, here's my second challenge, because I know I only have you for a little bit longer.
Okay, yeah, good.
Here's my second challenge, especially when you talk about this, right? In that situation, you still have a board. That woman's boss is still a male. And I'm not saying I have had great male bosses, I've had great female, I've had shitty male bosses, I've had
That's going to happen. Yep.
But one of my hypotheses, and I talk about this actually in my TED Talk, is that people think women are being held down, and actually many times they're opting down. And what I mean by that is, the second part of this is, will women actually even want to do it? Will they want to start the business? Will they want to take on the CEO business? And so this gets to, I think, in order to get the best women talent, because by the way, there's a lot of shitty women too, right? Like that's the other, like,
that's human nature. Yeah.
There's a lot of shitty women leaders. Everybody listening can think of like some of their worst experiences might even be from working or a woman. So how do we make sure that if these economics work out, that these women want this? Because a lot of women will say it's not worth it. I call it they're running the compromise calculation. I'll get this, but everything else will go down in my life. Like, what about that part of the mathematic equation?
Well, this is the messy part, right?
Yeah.
Where we're going through a change in social construct. 10 years ago, if you go out and say, hey, look, this woman's in charge. And you know what? I don't know how I best describe her, but she's beautiful, she's smart, she's intellect, she's well educated, she's powerful, she's in charge, she's confident. Everything about that woman makes her a leader. Well, how do we describe that? Most people would say bitch, because you have to think that, oh, she must be a real bitch to have risen to that level to do it. And there's some argument there that if you go back 20 or 30 years ago, how hard women had to fight to get there. And that caused them to play a different game. But here's what I would challenge you on. Reverse the question. Don't ask, why is this really going to happen? Ask why men happen. And say to yourself, and this is a big part of our study, the question is not why women are going to be in charge. The question should be, why are men in charge, or why have men been in charge? And it's a very, very simple answer. Men have been in charge, which created the patriarchal system that we're experiencing, or we're at the tail end of right now, for one reason and one reason only, and that's red muscle mass. That guys are pretty good and we're strong. So when we went through the agricultural society, you needed a guy to plow the fields and to cut down the trees. That's what guys did. And so they created businesses, these mythological things around how to sell more lumber and how to sell more whatever. And everybody had roles to play. Then we went from the agricultural age to the industrial age, which meant turning wrenches and building things. When Henry Ford first built cars, you go back to the 1920s, from the time a car started the assembly lines to the time it ended, over 100 men touched it, moved things, did things. It was red muscle mass. They had to turn that wrench 10,000 times a day, right? So that led to that. Well, guess what? Now it takes less than 5 people to build a car. We don't have to plow fields like we used to have to do it. So, and you go back even further and you say, okay, well, in the prehistoric days, my job was to fight the saber-toothed tiger and your job was to dot. well, all you had to do was outrun me because I'm not very good with a saber-tooth tiger, right? So you look back at it and say it was all about red muscle mass. And because of that, guys created a patriarchal system around it. We don't need that anymore. The economy has shifted. We're in a service-based economy with automation. And now what the economy is doing and what society is doing is saying, we pretty much have a level playing field. Yes, you can argue that men created a patriarchal bias. Yes, men might have kept doors closed in education and things like that, but that's the past. It's not.
I mean, yes.
So-
And I think there's research, and I forget the woman's name. She won a Nobel Prize, or no, I don't have it in front of me, but there was research done last year that actually disputes that theory, that it's all about muscle, and really talks about that actually the thing that's holding them back isn't education, it isn't tenacity, it isn't muscle, it's the home.
That's a big part of it. It's not the only thing.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, and I don't want to, I mean, get it. I think it's a little bit of everything. I think it's, I think what you've done and the research you provided is a tremendous propeller. I think as leaders listen to this podcast, what we can't do though is just sit and wait for 2028. We can't backbreak the map.
Like you said, yes.
Yes. And that's where I'm really passionate is that we have to be super surgical, super strategic. Obviously, you being out there, being an evangelist, and hopefully, many others for that, will be huge. But we also have this boulder that is complicated on the supply and the demand side, right? With women, it's a lot of what I talk about, what I experienced when I said no to my first COO position, and I actually said no. I said no, thank you, because I ran the compromise calculation, but came back on Monday and had rethought it and sort of realized that I didn't have to compromise. I could do shit authentically and do it my own way.
Well, that's a very real thing. Let me tell you though, that's a very, very real thing. Because like I said earlier, women are the creators. You can take cells and create a human being. Guys can't do that. Women can take food and turn it into a meal. They can take a house and turn it into a home. And I don't mean to be genderifying. That's just good. Guys are not good at it. Some guys are, but most people are going to agree with that. So women are going to run into a situation where they're going to say, I'm built to do a lot of different things. Guys are not. So you're going to have choices. Do I want to do the home thing? Do I want to take time off? Do I want to do it? And that's going to be a drag in the future. But I think we've already gone through that drag. And our math supports it goes back to the 1950s, and we can look at the change in dynamics of attitudes around society and women working in longer time periods before babies start coming along. Even the age of marriage has increased on it, while divorce rates has increased as well. But that's okay. So we look at all this and we're like, it just doesn't matter. But here's one thing I always tell everybody to do, and this hopefully will help with the mindset for you and for your listeners, and it certainly helped me. I tell students this all the time. Please do not judge the past. And here's why. The vast majority of things in the past were people doing what they thought was right at the time, based on their social construct. Now, we look back at things and go, oh my God, that was horrible. I can't believe they did that. How immoral was that? Okay. So it's very easy for us to look back at the past and point fingers and judge. But I challenge people, take it for what it was and try not to judge. And here's why. Because today, we're the most advanced civilization that we know of that's ever lived on this earth, right? We're the most advanced in medical science that there's ever been. We can do heart transplants. I don't have real teeth. I don't have a real eye. They got weird stuff, going on. These are like miracles of science, right? Well, here's what's interesting. While we think we're the most advanced civilization ever, and we probably are, our future selves, our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, are going to look back at us with the same judgmental eye as we're looking back on the past. In other words, we are the past of our future selves. And our great-great-grandchildren are going to look at us while we're celebrating heart transplants and lung transplants and curing these diseases. They're going to look back at us and they're going to go, those barbarians, they used to cut into people. They used to move body parts from side to side. They used to take drugs. They're going to look at us like we're barbarians. And we're celebrating, saying that, well, wait a minute, this is the best anybody's ever been. Yeah, today. But your future self's going to look back at you and laugh And so that to me is the key to everything. Yeah, we can argue all day long about the patriarchal system. We can talk about how men have done this and women have done this and chances were here and choices were there. We can talk about it all day long about the past. It's not going to get us anywhere. The present and the future is very, very clear. So if we're living in the present, a phenomenological impact is coming that's not just seismic, it's revolutionary. And most economists will tell you, we don't believe in luck. There's some random variables out there, but there's not lucky. But we will tell you that the harder you work at something, the more luck you're going to find. And back to your point here, Erin, I love this, luck favors the prepared. So those random opportunities, those things that happen, favor those who live in the present. They don't judge the past, they live in the present, and they're looking toward the future and saying, what have I got to do? Now, if you know that when a woman is in charge, she's going to 3X a guy, if you know that the longevity of the workforce is going to increase with production, and if you know the consumers want her style, you can do a couple of things here. If you're a guy, you can start mimicking this because, like I said, it's not a girl thing. It's just something girls do. So change the way you think about how you think about the way you think about your thinking. Or you can start opening the doors and saying, I want to hire the most qualified people possible. And the math is telling us it's going to be a woman. And she inherently, through a series of social constructs, genetics, opportunity, the way she thinks about her thinking, can do things that are so in line with what the economy and the consumer and the workforce is demanding right now. It's going to be the biggest celebration in history. So what are you doing to be prepared? That's the question. And why did we get here? Not complaining about it, just state the facts, use science and go, okay, but that's the past. What can I do to make the future the best possible so that our future selves look back at us and go, wow, those people really embraced that change. There's some things I think is a little weird. I don't know why they did that. That's a little barbaric in our terms today, but man, look at what they did when women rose and broke out of that past. And women were there at a time the economy and society welcomed them with open arms. And I think that's what's happening now. So it's going to be hard. It's going to be tempting. Man, we can sit and bitch about the past all we want. But the reality is if we live in the present, we look around and we celebrate what's happening and just look around and go, this makes so much sense. I can't unsee it. Then it's going to be just the most amazing thing out there. And I'm so happy and excited for young men and women, but mostly girls. When I teach in colleges, I've taught a couple of weeks ago at Wharton University. I've taught at Wake Forest recently. And I see these young girls and their eyes light up. It's like you're giving them permission to be the best that they can be. And then I look at the guys in the class, and you're talking to undergrads sometimes, and they're sitting there going, fuck it. Guys, these young guys aren't fighting it. So we're about to get through the messy part and into that glorious part. And you're right, Erin, luck favors the prepared. So the people that are willing to embrace it and run toward it and make wise decisions, not desperate decisions, but wise decisions, are going to own this thing pretty soon. So that's why I say it. Here Come the Girls is a celebration. And it's something
we all could use the celebration. I don't really appreciate your advocacy, your research, your tenacity. We have to wrap up, but where can people, the book's out probably by the time we've released this. I think it's coming out.
It's today. It's a book literally today. So the book is going out anytime after today.
Yeah.
You can go on Amazon and get the hardcover and the softcover. The audio will be out, but you can listen to podcasts like this. And I really want to thank you. We started so quickly. I kind of missed it, but I love what you're doing. Your podcast is amazing. Your work, your books, your concepts around this thing are phenomenal. And the 50% rule, I'm telling you, I think that's one of the best things ever.
We love it. We love everything we're doing, and we love everything you're doing. And so glad that we could come together and share the celebrations message. And everybody mark January 2028 on your calendar, the official day of girls taking over the world. So
it's already happening, but that's the tipping point. But exciting. Yeah, I'm glad we're all a part of it. And thank you for helping to share the news. But I tell you, people are going to adore you more than ever because you're spreading the word. You're the voice of that harmony and that better tomorrow. So thanks for being you. I really appreciate it.
Hey, it's Erin with a teeny request. If you have ever gotten any value from this podcast and you'd like us to stick around. Plus, you want it to continue to grow so we can kind of swindle bigger and more knowledgeable guests to join us and to keep providing you with tangible and inspiring actions you can take to achieve the career and life you deserve. Could you please just take 1 minute to leave us a rating and a review? Those reviews go a long way in attracting guests to the show, and candidly, they really make Nicole and I's day. We see you. We really do. So when you have the time and inspiration, we'd love to see a rating and review from you. Thank you.